His new book is Red November. Will the country vote red for Trump or red for socialism? Intelligent title. It's now available for pre-order. It's up at DennisPrager.com. I did not know you were in interracial marriage, and it's relevant to the story, obviously. You were in Santa Monica, California, which is a left-wing city. I know the city well. I conducted the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra, you may recall, and the hatred of conservatives is so great that the former mayor and present mayor at the time said they would not attend the concert at the Disney Concert Hall. It was better for the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra to not raise funds than be conducted by a conservative. I raised that evening the entire year's budget for the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra because I try to help local orchestras. But it was more important to them to destroy the orchestra than enable a conservative to conduct. It's totally appropriate, your story, where you see a minority-owned business smashed by leftists. And I want you to continue the story, but I am curious, is it going on as we speak? Is there more destruction in Santa Monica?
Right now, it's peaceful because there's such a large law enforcement presence. If you can call boarded up stores peaceful, people can't live their ordinary lives. And, you know, Dennis, there's been a real confusion in the media about this term peaceful protest. But there's a difference between peaceful and lawful. And people have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, but everybody has that right. That's why you can't just block traffic whenever you want to. That's why we have demonstrations apply for permits. It's for public safety, and it's so that you don't overrun other people when they're exercising their rights. But these quote-unquote peaceful protests diverted the police. The police were patrolling the protest on Ocean Boulevard while the looters were emptying out Santa Monica Place. And here you mentioned the symphony. The looters smashed the Santa Monica Music Center, also a minority-owned, minority-founded business. And they trashed it, and they looted the instruments. And this is what's going on in our liberal cities. And now in Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti is cutting the police budget by $150 million. He's kowtowing to these people who show up at protests with signs that say, defund the police. There's nothing worse for black communities and communities of color than to make them less safe, because no one's going to invest in those communities if they can't feel safe and secure. I don't think liberal America, and certainly I don't think our media, realize what this has done. And I was telling a relative of mine this morning, this is the worst thing I've seen in my lifetime. I've never seen anything like this. It's not just the destruction. It's that they wrap it all in the language of social justice. And PragerU is so important because the college campus is now our reality. What you were fighting on campus a few years ago is now everywhere. The cry bullies who talk about their pain while the looters are destroying lives and setting fire to minority-owned businesses and making sure nobody ever invests in retail stores ever again, whether in Beverly Hills or in Compton. It's completely appalling. And the mayor not only cuts the police, he gave a speech where he said he understood the pain of black Americans because it hurts from the very day you're born. There's this concept they have called generational trauma. It's so completely ridiculous, but and it's racist too. It's saying essentially that being born black is some kind of sentence, some sort of punishment. And this is held up as the highest form of enlightened liberalism. You know, this is a giant con. In a way, you could almost look at the Black Lives Matter movement as it is right now, as a way for privileged white people to assert their privilege. Because what does Black Lives Matter say? It says that white privilege is the problem, which means that white people become the most important people in fixing the problem. So it takes away black agency and makes liberals like Eric Garcetti, who can go home and enjoy private security, makes them feel great about themselves and they're safe and secure, while black communities have less police patrolling. And by the way, when you cut the police budget by 10%, you're taking away jobs from black, Hispanic, Angelenos. The police force is disproportionately minority. This is all just insanity. And, Dennis, it's very upsetting, and you hear it in my voice how upset I am about it, and I do think the stakes are very high for November. But I do think there's one other thing to think about, which is that this is in many ways a test of will. And the media, having tried and failed to get rid of Donald Trump any other way, they used impeachment, then they used the coronavirus, and now they're using this. I'm not saying that coronavirus isn't a real problem. I'm not even saying that racism in the police force or America isn't a real problem, but they're elevating it to such an hysterical and self-destructive level. Black America was at its best early this year, lowest level of poverty, highest level of employment. The media would destroy Black America if it would get rid of Donald Trump, and that's what we're seeing. It's a test of wills, though, and I think people just need to know that beyond the headlines and the news, a lot of Americans are looking at this as the absurdity it is. Many Americans, although people are fearful right now, both in a physical sense and in a social sense, many Americans still believe in the United States, still believe in Martin Luther King. These kids never learned about Martin Luther King. The New York Times quoted Martin Luther King the other day saying that a riot is the voice of the unheard. He did say that, but he also said in the same paragraph that he did not support riots. He was trying to explain why riots happened, but he committed to nonviolence even in that same paragraph. They don't quote that part. So our youth are being miseducated as to what Martin Luther King Jr. was about, and our media are enjoying the spectacle of disorder. They're enjoying what the novelist Norman Rush called, and I quote him in my book, Red November, actually, but he called the insurrectionary moment. Every socialist loves the insurrectionary moment because they don't think about what happens afterwards. And what happens afterwards is 20 years of economic devastation in the inner city. What are these kids going to do, the ones who looted? What are they going to do when the pants don't fit and there's no store to return them to?
All right, we'll hold it there. I didn't say a word the entire segment, so I was mesmerized by your passion and eloquence. Joel Pollak, my guest. His book is up at DennisPrager.com.